everybody, it's the War Hipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus Stormdrake Guard painting tutorial. Yes, we are painting a Knight-Draconis today, and we're not going to be doing it in the box art scheme. No, we are going to be painting a Black Dragon Knight-Draconis, because I think it'll look really cool to have this obsidian fiery dragon leading the Stormdrake Guard across the battlefield. And, well, we're doing something that I don't normally do. We're painting something non-box art style, so I'm excited to find out if this is possible. So, without much further ado, we're going to jump in and start painting him in just a moment. He's been primed in grey Seer, and, well, we're going to grab our paints, grab our brushes, and then we're going to get started. So, here we go then. We're going to start with all of the darker areas of our dragon, which is going to be the outside scales and kind of the outside of the body, the harder parts. And these are going to be the black that we were talking about earlier. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it already. I can't remember. It has been primed in grey here. And the colour we're going to be using is Leviadon Blue. Now, I've got Leviadon Blue, and it would be tough to say that it's 1-to-1, but it's Leviadon Blue, a big puddle of it on my palette, and then just thin down with a little bit of contrast medium. The easiest way to do this is to do a 1-to-1. So yeah, just a big puddle of Leviadon Blue and then one or two blobs of contrast medium, just to improve the flow and make it go a little bit further. And as I said, we're going to be doing this all over all of the outer scales. Now I'm just going to start here on the leg, arm. And this is going to give us this really nice kind of dark blue, as you can see. Now, it doesn't have to be 100% smooth here, because we are going for a black dragon. So when the black Templar, which will go over the top, goes over the top, it is going to cancel out a lot of the any kind of sort of blotchy mistakes. We do want to kind of aim for it to be as smooth as possible though, because then if it's too dark, then when the contrast builds up in those areas, it becomes slightly difficult to manage. But we're just going like this all over this area. Like that. That's exactly the kind of tone that we're after. And continue this along the wing. So with that Leviadon Blue applied all over the outside of the dragon, you'll notice I haven't done the tip of the face, I haven't done any of the hair, and I haven't done these kind of faded spines throughout the wings. And there's a very good reason for that, I hope. As I said, we're off script here. So what we're going to do now, rather than do the black just yet, is we're going to do now the red colour. And the colour we're going to make is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Flesh Terrace Red and Shyish Purple, with a little bit of contrast medium thrown in. Now, what I've done is I've taken 4 brushfuls of Flesh Terrace Red and 4 brushfuls of Shyish Purple, so I've got enough paint to work with. And then I've just added a sort of, probably, it was just about 1.5 bits of contrast medium in there, again just to improve the flow. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to paint this all over the remaining areas. So this is going to be areas like the inside of the wing, just here. Like so. I'm going to continue that all the way along. I'm also going to do the underside of the belly, and I'm going to do the tip of the kind of the remaining area on the face, including all the hair. And so with that red applied, like this, it's starting to come together. It is still a bit wet on the wing, but that's okay because we're not going near there just yet. What we are going to do though is we are going to make a roughly 4 parts Black Templar to 1 part Contrast Medium. So once again, a big puddle of Black Templar and then a little bit of Contrast Medium mixed in. And we are now going to paint this over the top of all of our Leviadon Blue. Now, we don't have to worry too much about doing the spines. Don't worry about that just yet. That's going to come a little bit later. But for now, we're just going to get this Black Templar now all over the top of our Leviadon Blue areas. Just like this. So with that done, our dragon is really beginning to take shape. As you can see, we have the black and the red looking pretty good. But what we're going to do now is we're going to work on those wings. Now, still sticking with Black Templar, what we're going to do is we're going to create a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Black Templar and Contrast Medium. I'm going to use this to do a spot of blending on the wings. So along these spines and along the kind of sort of more textured parts of the membrane, we want to basically put this over the top and then wick it off so that we got this kind of nice black to red fade. So demonstrating, we'll just do it up here on this spine here. What we're going to do with this mix, I'm going to paint it over like that to around about there. And we're going to come down the other side as well, grab a little bit more. Like that. We'll have this pretty well-defined triangle there in the middle, but what we're going to do is we wash the brush and then we're just going to, with a clean brush, start pulling it off and moving it around like this until you get this kind of effect, like that, as you can see. Do it again on the next one down. So once again, put this mix over that amount, and then on the other side. Like so. Wash the brush and then just start moving it around. Just going to grab a little bit more and pop it just there. And so with that done, it's looking pretty awesome. Again, this wing is still a little bit wet, but that's okay, because what we're going to do now is we're going to take some Flesh Terror's Red on its own, and we're going to use this over the top of our kind of red scales. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to use two colours, Black Templar and Flesh Terror's Red. I'm going to use this on all the hair. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking some Black Templar. I'm going to add this towards the base of all of the hair, just like this. Then what we do is we wash the brush, grab some Flesh Terror's Red. I'm going to add this, like this, whilst it's still wet, over the top, just merging those two colours together so that the hair kind of starts black at the base and grows out into a red. Just like that. So with that done, our dragon's looking pretty awesome already. Now, what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of red into the black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Flesh Terror's Red and I'm going to use this over the top of the large armor plates. So for example, just here on this leg, I'm just going to start painting this Flesh Terror's Red over the top. And this might seem like it's not going to do very much, and it's not going to give it a really kind of bright, vibrant red. But what it is going to do is it's going to add that kind of hint of red to these areas, which is just what I want. Just like that, you see? So I'm just going to go over all of these kind of darker, larger plates with this Flesh Terror's Red like this. And then once that's done, we'll come back. So with that now done, it is time to start brightening up our dragon. Now, the colour we're going to be doing first is Russ Grey, and this is going to be a little dry brush. We're going to very gently dry brush this over the top of our black. And we just want to build this up. So we're just being, as I say, very, very gentle here. We don't want to go in too hard. Just like this. So with that Russ Grey dry brush applied, we're then going to do another dry brush, and this one is going to be Fenrisian Grey. This is going to be even more gentle than our Russ Grey one, because we just want to add a little bit more brightness around the sharpest points with this. Kind of acting as our dry brush spot highlight. So with that Fenrisian Grey dry brush applied, all of our black is pretty much there. What we're going to do now is we're going to take some thinned down Mephiston Red. I'm going to add some edge highlights here. And this is going to be for all of our red scales. Now what we want to do is we're basically want to pick out the edges. So for example, just down here. Like this. But then what we also want to do, once we get to a bigger one, to demonstrate this a little better, we'll do it up here. So once we've got the edge on, what we're then going to do is going to do lots of tiny little lines. Like that. Along each of the edges, well, along the kind of front facing edges. Just like that. They don't have to all be the same length. They can be reasonably irregular. And so with that Mephiston Red applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to add a very, very gentle dry brush of Cadian Fleshtone, just going over the top of the sharpest point. So basically right down the middle. Just catching the edges as well, like that, as you can see. And what we can also do is dry brush this over the top of the hair as well now. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of the kind of shiny bluish edge off of the body, but not the wings. That's okay. So the colour we're going to make is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Flesh Terror's Red and Black Templar, and then we're going to thin it down with 6 parts contrast medium. So it's very, very thin. It's kind of sort of like a sort of dark red glaze. And it's just going to fundamentally change the properties of our dragon. So I'm just going to start getting this all over. Just like that. You can leave kind of like the extremities, for example, as blue if you want to. I'm still just going to bring it down. Now that we've done that, I really, really like the tone of all of the dragon's skin now, but we just need to add a little cheeky little extra dry brush just to really, really kind of pop it off just that little bit. Now, that dry brush is going to be some Administratum Grey, and I'm just going to very, very gently apply this. Just like that. So with that done, our scales, our wings, all of it on our Knight-Draconis are now finished. Looking very, very cool. So it's time to move on to some of the other colours. And for those of you who've noticed, I have actually gone back in with some grey Seer and tidied up some areas. So for example, all the straps around here and across the head. And I've also applied some grey Seer over the eyes because those are going to be slightly different colours. So the next colour we're going to be using is Gryph-Charger Grey. I'm going to be using this for all of his claws. Like that. Just going to lift that a little bit off just there. And what we're also going to do is going to use this over the top of his teeth. So with that done, we're now going to take some Shyish Purple. I'm going to use this to paint in the inside of his mouth and his tongue. Just going to grab that on the brush. Like that. And with that done, we're then going to take some Volupus Pink. I'm going to paint this over the top of the eyes. And so with that Volupus Pink applied, we then take a tiny amount of black Templar. I'm going to paint this over the top of the eyeballs. Just like that. And so with that done, we're then going to take a little tiny wee amount of Fulgrim Pink. I'm going to use this to highlight the Volupus Pinky bits. Around the eyes like that. And with that done, you then want to take a tiny dot of Gitz Yellow. You want to paint this basically in the back corner. of each of the eyeballs. And so with that done, we're then going to take some blue horror. I'm going to use this to highlight the teeth. Just like this. We've applied that blue horror to the teeth and to all the claws, so all that's left to do is to take some Slaanesh Grey and use this to highlight the tongue. Just like this. So with that done, our Drake is now finished. It's time to move on to the rest of the details. Now, what we're going to be doing first is taking some Cygor Brown. I'm going to be using this across all of the leather on the Drake. So we've just got these straps here, for example. Just like that. And with that Cygor Brown applied, we're then going to take some black Templar. I'm going to use this to paint in all of the black details. Now we are including the rider here, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be painting the saddle. And any of the straps and belts and things on the rider as well. And so with that black Templar applied to all of those details, what we're now going to do is we're going to colour in all the blue, because this is of course a Hammers of Sigmar Knight-Draconis. And the colour we're going to be making is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Talassar Blue. And this is effectively our pre-shade. Now, there's a lot of blue details. We've got areas such as the facing of the shield, just in here. Don't worry too much about getting this over the top of the lightning bolt design. That's okay. I'm not aiming for neatness right now. We're just going for smoothness. Like that. We've also got the shoulder pad, the outside of the cloak, and we've got the underside of the armour, the flat area, just here, like this. So with that Talassar Blue applied to all of our blue details, as you can see, we've got the back of the cloak, shoulder pad. There was a couple of extra ones I forgot to mention. The plate here on the head, one here on the chest as well. What we're going to do now is darken it down by using a 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Ultramarines Blue. And we're just going to get this all over just like this. Once again, just not worrying too much about getting this on those lightning details just there. We are, as I said last time, just going for smoothness here. Getting a really nice strong coat of this blue, just like that. So with that Ultramarines Blue applied, we've got this lovely colour blue, which is awesome. So what we're going to do now is we're going to colour in the gold, and there is a lot of gold because of course he is Hammers of Sigmar, as already mentioned. So the colour we're going to be using is Retributor Armour, and we're just going to start picking a little bit out. Now at this point you can actually just use the box art to figure out which bits are which, but it's mostly all of his armour, all of these plates on the Drake, all of the trim, the decorative features on the sword for example. All of it. There's a lot of gold. A whole lot of gold. So just take your time, pick it all out with this Retributor Armour. Then once that's done, we'll come back. So with all of that now applied, as you can see, it's a whole lot of gold. What we're now going to do is just going to very quickly take some Blood Angels Red. I'm going to apply this to his plume. Just like this. So with that Blood Angels Red applied to that plume, what we're now going to do is going to take some Corax White. I'm going to use this to now restore all of our white details. So this is going to include the lightning bolt designs, on the shield, on the dragon's chest armor, like so. Got the little icon just here on the shoulder pad. And we've got the inside of the cloak. So with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some Apothecary White. I'm going to paint this over the top of all of our white details. I'm going to start just here on the shoulder pad. Just like that. Way too much paint. So with that Apothecary White applied, it's now time to add some Leadbelcher to all of our silver details. So we've got areas like the scale mail just in here. We've got the sword blade. And we've got the stirrups. And a couple of like the things like the belt buckles and stuff like that that are scattered around the model. There you go, so that's the scale mail. belt buckles and stuff you can find dotted about. Like that. Stirrups. We've got the Aeon Fire Blade. And so with that Leadbelcher applied, we're then going to take some Wyldwood. I'm going to apply this to the soft grip on the sword. So with that now done, there is just one last detail left to add some paint to, and that is the flames on the Aeon Fire Blade. So to do this, we're going to be using 3 colours. We're going to be using Iyanden Yellow, Blood Angels Red, and Black Templar. We're going to be using them all at the same time. So the first one we're going to use is Iyanden Yellow. I'm just going to load up our brush with quite a liberal amount, and we're just going to whack this over the top of our flames. Don't worry about getting it on the blade too much. That's okay. If anything, it's kind of what we want. Like that. Just try to keep it down this half where the flames are. Like so. Then what we do is we wash the brush, grab some Blood Angels Red, and then along each of these flames, about halfway along, we're just going to add the Blood Angels Red. Like this, like that, and like that. Then we're going to wash the brush and grab a little bit of Black Templar. Then we're just going to add this to the tips of our flames. Like so. Wash the brush. Just going to grab a little Blood Angels Red, because just forgot to add some here. Like that. Wash the brush once more, and then grab some Iyanden Yellow. I'm just going to use this now to blend the colours together. Like this. We can lift off some of the paint, for example, just there. Just like that. You can keep adding in colour or taking away colour. It is entirely up to you. I'm just going to grab a little bit more Black Templar here. Just add it there. Like that until we're happy with it, and I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm just going to replicate that on the opposite side. So with that done, it's still a little bit wet, but that's okay, because what we're going to do now, we're going to apply some shades to the model. And the first one is going to be a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Fyreslayer Flesh, and this is going to be over the top of all of our gold details. And I'm just going to start on the belly and work my way up the model. But of course, you can do this in any fashion that you like. I just like to do it this way, so it's nice and methodical. So theoretically, I don't miss spots, but as we know, in classic war hipster fashion, I often do. So, do with that what you will. So with that shade applied, we're now going to take some Gryph-Charger Grey. I'm going to use this to shade all of the silver. Now, on the sword blade, what we want to do is you just want to overlap that flame just a little bit, not too much. Just enough to have a little bit of shade and shadow into the base of the flame, kind of along where the blade actually is. So up to around about just there, like that. As for the rest of it, we just want to, as usual, just whack our Gryph-Charger Grey all over, just like this. So with that done, all of our shades are now on. So I've now got a Hammers of Sigmar Knight-Draconis, who is at a battle ready standard. However, it is now time to take him to the next level. And so the place we're going to start is on all the gold. Now, the colour we're going to be using first is Retributor Armour. I'm going to be using this to basically relayer all the flat open panels. Those of you who've seen any of my Hammers of Sigmar tutorials so far, you know what I'm talking about. So we're just literally just taking this Retributor Armour, then down on the palette, just only over large details, so like that kind of chest plate just there, and this little bit just here as well. We're adding it over the top. Any of these little areas where, you know, we're going to do edge highlights, so for example this bottom section here, we don't need to add it because it's too small and it would be time consuming and actually start to lose some of the depth of the model. But for example, just there on that thigh plate, like that, we can just add some across this knee, like this, just avoiding the recesses. Just returning that shine to the model, whilst keeping that gorgeous Fyreslayer Flesh over the Retributor Armour in the deepest, darkest places. And so with that done, we should have this beautifully shiny gold once more, all the way around our model. So what we're going to do now, we're going to highlight it. And the colour we're going to make is a roughly 2-part Stormhost Silver to 1-part Retributor Armour mix, to give us this really lovely bright shiny gold, and you'll see what I mean just here. And we're just going to start picking out all of the edges around all of the gold. Just like this. So with that done, the gold is now all finished and the model has taken a huge leap forward, as I'm sure you can tell. So what we're going to do now is we're going to highlight all the blue. And the colour we're going to be using first for this is Hoeth Blue. And all we're going to do is just going to start picking out all the edges. Just like this. And so with that Hoeth Blue applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Blue Horror. I'm just going to add this to the corners and the rivets around all of our blue details. So with that done, all of our blue details are now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Corax White. I'm going to use this in 2 different ways. So firstly, what we're going to do on the cloak is we're just going to paint this Corax White all over the top of the visible folds in the fabric, just like this. So we've got this one here on this side. We've got a little bit of it just there. Just like that. This is going to come down this side as well, on the outside of the cloak. Just like that. Similarly, on the other side, you do just want to add this Corax White, and you have to come at it from this angle. But we've got this large open space. Just like that. So that when you turn it from this angle, you can see the white just right under there. Like that. And you can use that as a reference point to make sure that you've got as much of it as you want. So just going to widen it out just a little bit more. Come back around and check. Just coming from this angle just briefly. Just to make sure we catch that edge like that. Then what we're going to do is we're also going to use this Corax White with a slightly smaller brush. All the slightly smaller white details, we're just going to start picking out the edges. Just like this. So with that done, the white is now all finished. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some thinned down Iron Hand Steel, which is over here for some reason. There it is. We're going to take some thinned down Iron Hand Steel. We're going to take him off the base just for the moment because we're going to be painting in the sword. Now basically what we want to do is we want to kind of relayer up to about halfway and then kind of feather it out just a little bit. So we're just along here, going to add this Iron Hand Steel, just avoiding that recess where the blade curves. Going to come up to around about there, like that, and then we're going to wash the brush. And then we're just going to feather away. Like that, just to smooth out that transition so it starts to disappear into the shaded Gryph-Charger Grey just at the top there. Similarly, just around here on this flat part of the blade, I'm going to paint this Iron Hand Steel like that. Take that a little bit closer to that recess. And then I'm going to run the Iron Hand Steel along the center of the blade. Just like that. And along the cutting edge as well. Like so. Just go back to this central part because I don't think I finished it. Just like that. And do the same thing on the opposite side. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Stormhost Silver. I'm going to apply this on the cutting edge of the blade. Like that. And we're just going to bring it down. Around about halfway across that central point of the blade, like that. And then finally, just to blend all of those sword blade elements together, we're going to take some Nuln Oil Gloss. I'm going to add just a little bit of water to it, sort of 1-to-1 mix almost, and we're just going to apply this very carefully over the top of the blade. And this will just blend everything together and add a little bit of a shine to all of those elements. Just like that, just take the edge off it slightly. And so with that done, what we then want to do is take a little bit of Yriel Yellow, and we want to run this across the yellow sections of our flame. Just overlapping onto the blade, just a little bit. And this is really just to taste. Just adds that little bit of extra warmth into the flames. And with that done, we've just got one detail left to work on, and that is going to be all the gems. Now, the colour we're going to be using for this is Blood Angels Red, and we just want to slowly make our way around picking them out. So we've got this one here on the sword, on both sides, like that. Got it here, on the shield, on the brow of the chest, like so. Just like this. And with that Blood Angels Red applied, we are then going to take a tiny dot of Lugganath Orange and just apply that to the middle of each of our gems. And so, our Black Dragon Knight-Draconis is now finished. He looks absolutely fantastic. This guy, just having played with him very recently, leading the rest of the Stormdrake Guard from the forefront, and his ominous Black Dragon looks absolutely amazing. And I'm really, really pleased with how it's turned out. It's exactly how I pictured in my head, which is always what you want when you're coming up with a scheme on the fly. Hope you find it useful for your black dragons, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you can now become a YouTube channel member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, just like these absolute bosses have done. And if you just want to shoot me a little thanks, just because you really love this video, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.